On the top story tonight at 6, the Child Victims Act has now resulted in accusations against the late funk singer Rick James.
A woman claims that she was raped at the age of 15 in a West Side Buffalo group home. News 4's George Rickert says this lawsuit seeks $50 million from his estate.
That's right, and he had served time in prison before for kidnapping and assaulting 2 other women. But now he's accused of rape in a civil suit, which would not have been possible for decades before the Child Victims Act took effect last summer.
She's a very kinky girl.
He's best known for the song Super Freak, released in 1981. But 2 years before that, when he was already famous, the spring of 1979 is the focus of this lawsuit. An anonymous woman says she was 15 years old and living in a group home on Richmond Avenue near Auburn in Buffalo as part of the youth detention program. She writes that Rick James came to visit, and the girls were all introduced to Rick James by Willie and were excited to meet him. I did not know who Rick James was and shrugged and said, I don't know him. Almost immediately, Rick James was very suggestive and inappropriate towards me, unquote. Later on, she says he came up to her bedroom and raped her. She says she tried to fight him off, but he told her, quit moving or I'll cut you, according to the signed affidavit. The woman is seeking $50 million from the trust that's listed in Rick James' real name, the James Ambrose Johnson Jr. Trust.
Our client has chosen to speak out and tell her story in an attempt to finally hold Mr. James accountable for the irreparable damage that his actions caused her to suffer over the decades.
Rick James died in 2004. The line at his funeral wrapped around the church. He's buried at Forest Lawn Cemetery. He had spent more than 2 years in prison after being convicted of kidnapping and assaulting 2 women. This suit alleges he raped a 15-year-old in a Buffalo youth home.
A lot of times, these sexual predators look for the most vulnerable, person they can.
This lawsuit was filed just yesterday. It's now up to the defendant to respond. The California attorney, which administers the Rick James estate, did not return our calls today. George Rickert, News 4.
Shout out to Ashton Lewis for sending me this article on Twitter that led to this audio that you just heard. I'm trying to figure out where to begin with this one. It's become a thing where we ask who's going to be next. And oftentimes we guess who might be next. But sometimes we don't because it is unpredictable of who they'll go after. We just know they're going to go after somebody. But a lot of times we often say that it's going to be someone who is alive. But now it has gone after, it has gone to another level where they will not just go after those who are living and breathing, but they will go after those who have deceased. And some of them don't even have to have just been deceased like Kobe Bryant when they immediately started to go after him after he died. It can be years. Now, they did it with Michael Jackson, and he was already deceased for 10 years when they did it with him. But now they're reaching even further back to 2004, 14 years ago, with Rick James. This man has been dead since 2004. And now they're going after them. Now, how ironic they say that this person, who was 15 at the time, comes out against Rick James and say that this person was raped, or say that they were raped by Rick James back in the late 70s. I want to know why they didn't say anything then when this happened. This is almost like the Bill Cosby thing all over again. The only difference is Bill Cosby is alive and Rick James is not. And see, they're playing on the whole kidnapping thing, which he went to jail for 2 years. And they're playing off of that. If you notice in the video, in the audio that you heard, they mentioned that multiple times. And now all these years later, We're talking roughly over 40 years later. Now this person, who was anonymous at this point, wants to sue Rick James' estate for $50 million. Like we have said, Bill Cosby is a proxy. R. Kelly is a proxy. Michael Jackson is a proxy. Kobe Bryant is a proxy. When they go after one, they will start to go after all. Cuba Gooding Jr. is a proxy. There's not just one particular man that they're going after. They're finding all of them and picking them off one by one unsuspectingly. I did not see this Rick James one coming at all. But then again, many of you listening to the sound of my voice didn't expect it either. That's the point. They know who they're going after. It's almost scary to even ask who's next because we know it's going to be someone who's next. This man has been dead for 14 years. And now this person has come from the shadows and saying, I'm going to sue his estate for $50 million for what allegedly happened back in the late 70s. Mind you, they said this person was in a group home. I've heard about group homes. I've heard how dangerous those group homes can be and how rough they are. I can only imagine what they were like back in the day. I can only imagine what they're like today. Now, they said that they didn't even know who Rick James was when he came to the group home. I wonder if anybody else knew who he was. But they said allegedly he went to this person and raped them and threatened to cut them or hurt them if he didn't let them have his way with them. All of this raises many red flags and high suspicions for me. All of it. But now we see who is next on the chopping block. Even in death, this man has been laid to rest for 14 years, and they want to come out now and put this out there. And ironically, they have that new act that they mentioned. They said that went into effect in 2019. And what happens? The next year, here comes this lawsuit for the estate. It's almost like this person was waiting for something like this to hit the books so they can get some money. Now, those people who go into group homes are usually those who they don't have any relatives to take care of them. No child services or anything like that is willing to really deal with them. They just kind of it's almost like they're the stray. They just throw them there. They're just dumped there. And I remember working at my job a few years ago for an event, and it was some kids that came in from I guess you can say a detention center. I guess you can say they were a group home too. And let me tell you something. All of them were kind of off. Mainly due to the circumstances that they've been put in, but all of them were off. All of them needed some kind of supervision. Every last one of them. They were at a level where they were not ready to function in society on their own. And these were teenagers. We're talking about preteens to probably damn near 18. So I also wonder, this alleged victim who was 15 at the time, I wonder too, and I'm going to ask it because it could possibly be true. I wonder if this person threw sexual signals toward Rick James, because we knew how Rick James got down back in the day. That man loved his women. He loved them. Hell, to the people I'm talking to right now, he probably could have had his way with some of your mothers back then. And they probably would have willingly gave it up because it was Rick James. He didn't come out with that Super Freak song for nothing. I think he was a super freak before that Super Freak song even became a thing. Yeah, very kinky girl, one you don't take home to mama. That's a very powerful line. But I take all of this with a grain of salt. Well, now it looks like we found a person to talk about or to keep our eye on. Unfortunately, this person is dead and has been for the last decade and 4 years. Talk about the ultimate disrespect of our legends and our icons to bring something like this up. I hope that he has living family that is ready to combat all of this, because now they're the next family to go to war in this Me Too battle, if you want to call it that. Well, go to battle in this Me Too war, I should say, because the war is the bigger part of a battle. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter if you haven't done so already. Have your notifications turned on, and I will talk to you in the next one.